Excuse me, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Box Office Ricky, the channel where I break down movies you're watching, the movies you're debating about, and the box office numbers behind it all. I'm Ricky. If you're new here, this is your home for honest reviews and the real story behind what's making money at the box office. Now, today we are talking about a movie that has been all over my timeline, all over my social media, and apparently all over the box office too. We are talking about Scream 7. Now, let's get into it. Before we dive into the new film, let me give you a little context because the franchise has a lot of this the franchise has one of the wildest histories in modern horror. It all started back in 1996 with director Wes Craven, rest his soul, gave us the original Scream written by Kevin Williamson. And that movie just didn't scare people, it changed the genre. It changed. It was very self-aware, it was very smart. It made you feel like the movie knew you were watching it. Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott became one of the great final girls in cinema history. That film genuinely reinvented what a horror movie could be. Now, the sequels that came fast, right? We had Scream 2 in 1997. I remember being super excited to see that. Then we had Scream 3 in 2000. And then there was a long pause. I think after Scream 3, the franchise kind of finally ran out of steam. But, you know, of course, modern Hollywood is always looking for IP to latch onto or to, basically mine. And in a long pause, and before we got Scream 4 in 2011. Now in 2015, Wes Craven passed away in 2015, and many of us figured that was the end of the road for Ghostface. Well, but then in 2022, directors Matt Bettinelli, Alpin, and Tyler Gillett revived the franchise with a new Scream, followed by a Scream 6 in 2023. Those films introduced a new generation with Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega as the new Carpenter sisters, and also as the new leads of the franchise. And essentially that is when everything fell apart. Now, I'm telling you all this just to kind of give you a little bit of context of how we got here to Scream 7. Melissa Barrera was fired from Scream 7 in late 2023 over a social media post related to the Israel-Gaza conflict. Shortly after, Jenna Ortega walked away too, saying, I'm paraphrasing here, that with the creative team she loved gone and the cast changing, it just wasn't the right move for her. Even Skeet Ulrich, who was reportedly set to return as Billy Loomis in what was planned to be a multi-film arc, was no longer part of the picture. So the whole project had to be rebuilt from scratch, and that brings us to Neve Campbell. So let's talk about that, because it's important to understand where we are with this character. Neve Campbell was not even in Scream 6, the 2023 film, and the reason, well, it came down to money. Campbell publicly stated that she was not offered what she felt was her contribution to the franchise was worth, so she walked away. And honestly, you can't be mad at her for that. I mean, she is Sidney Prescott. The character wouldn't exist without her. So she holds the mythology of the franchise on her shoulders. But where it gets interesting is when Barrera and Ortega's situation unraveled and the studio needed to rebuild Scream 7 around legacy characters, Neve suddenly had all the leverage. She came back. Reports indicated that she was paid $7 million to return for Scream 7. Courtney Cox also came back as Gail Weathers. And in the full circle moment, Kevin Williamson, the man who wrote the original 1996 film, stepped in to direct Scream 7 for the first time in his career. So, on paper, Scream 7 felt like a homecoming, a course correction, a return to what made the franchise great on paper. So let me dive into my synopsis of this film. And there's going to be no spoilers here. So here's the basic setup. Scream 7 brings us back to Sidney Prescott, now living a quieter life with her husband, Mark Evans, played by Joel McHale, which was cool to see him, and their daughter Tatum, played by Isabel May. But of course, peace never lasts long for Sidney. A new Ghostface killer emerges in the town where she's trying to build her life, and this time her daughter becomes the target. Sydney has to face the ghost of her past, quite literally, to protect her family and put an end to the cycle of violence once and for all. Courtney Cox is back as the fierce Gale Weathers, and yes, Matthew Lillard returns as Stu Macher, which I'll just say is a choice. I'll leave it at that. So now that you kind of got the scoop of what this film is about, let me dive into my thoughts. Okay, here's where I give you real talk. Look, Scream 7, is it a solid slasher film? Yeah, it's a solid slasher film, I would say. If you want some kills, some tension, some of the Ghostface energy, you'll get that. Now, the movie functions, it works as a piece of entertainment, but it works is not a compliment, not for a franchise that defined a genre. And that's kind of the heart of my problem with this film. I was in middle school when I saw this original Scream in 1996, and I remember walking out of the theater feeling like I had seen something different, something that understood the rules of horror movies. And that turned those rules into the actual movie. It was unlike anything I'd seen. It reinvented the genre. It made horror feel smart again. Scream 7 does not reinvent anything. In fact, it feels like we're running the exact same plays we've seen since the beginning. The red herrings, the fake outs, the who could it possibly be set up. And here's the thing that genuinely frustrated me. As an audience member, you already know what's going to happen next. You can feel the beats coming before they arrive. There's no surprise. There's no subversion. There's no moment where the film pulls the rug out from under you in a way that actually lands. And in preparation of this video, I went back and watched Scream 6, and it had the same exact feeling. Nothing new is happening here. It's the same formula, dressed up in a slightly different location. Now, I want to be fair. Most horror films are not trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, you go in to get scared, to have fun, and go home. That's totally valid. But the Scream franchise was built on reinvention. The whole point of these movies, from the very first one, was to be self-aware, to acknowledge the cliches of the genre and then rise above them. That's what made the original so special. And so when the sequels just become those cliches, it's not just disappointing, it feels like a betrayal of what the franchise stands for. And let me keep it real with you. The only Scream film that actually ever truly delivered on that promise is the first one. Now, I'll give you some credit to Scream 4. There were some moments in that film that had some spark. And Scream 5 showed glimmers and something interesting. But Scream 2 and 3, honestly, were just disappointing. And Scream 6 and 7, I'm sorry, these are really low points of the franchise. So I've even thought about this. I mean, what could they do to shake things up? Because honestly, I'm not sure the traditional formula has anything or anywhere left to go. Maybe they needed to take this thing in a completely different direction, go supernatural, go experimental. If you watch The Black Phone, there's some cool things that they did there that I thought was interesting. Basically, do something that no one expects. Because at this point, the predictability is the problem, and just bringing back familiar faces is not enough to solve it. Which brings me to the reveal. Oh, the reveal. So, every Scream movie hinges on an unmasking moment, finding out who's been behind the Ghostface mask. And in the original, that reveal was devastating. It hit you emotionally. You cared. But in Scream 7, by this time, we get to that moment, and my honest reaction was, who flipping cares? And that's a terrible feeling to have during what's supposed to be the most emotional climax of the movie. There's nothing there to anchor you emotionally to that killer's identity. No real connection, no weight. They follow the exact same formula, beat by beat, the same formula. By the earlier Scream movies, literally mocked what the earlier Scream movies mocked. The irony is actually almost poetic. The movie is becoming the very thing it used to make fun of. And now, here's where I want to flip the script a little bit, because I'm genuinely happy about one thing. Scream 7 has had a massive open weekend. We're talking $64 million domestically in its opening weekend, the biggest opening that it's had in its franchise history. And I love to see that. I truly do, because movie theaters need people in those seats. We need audiences showing up and supporting the theatrical experience. And it is especially encouraging that this film is tracking really well with young viewers, that the Gen Z crowd is turning out for this one, and that matters. They're the ones with the time, the energy, and the dollars to show up on opening weekends. And if we're reinvesting in theatrical experience, that's a win for everyone. So the movie business side of me is happy. The film fan side of me, still a little bit heartbroken. So let's get in my final verdict. Now here's the thing. They brought back Neve Campbell. They brought back Courtney Cox. They brought back Kevin Williamson, the man who started all this. The ingredients were there. The opportunity was there. This could have been something genuinely special, a real meaningful return to what made this franchise iconic. And instead, it feels like they left all of that on the table. My rating for Scream 7 is a C-. It's not unwatchable, but it's not memorable. And for a franchise with a kind of legacy, that might be the harshest thing I can say. So that is my wrap up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. That's going to do it for this episode of Box Office Ricky. And thank you as always for spending a little time with me. If you enjoyed the video, hit and like the button, drop a comment, and let me know what you think. Let me know which is your favorite Scream movie. I want me to know what you thought of Scream 7. And if you're new here, subscribe so you don't miss any of my next review or my box office reports. And before I go, I want to leave you with something that has nothing to do with movies, but everything to do with how we show up in this world. In a world where you can be anything, why not be kind to each other? Be kind to strangers, be kind to your family, be kind to the people you pass every day who might really need it. It costs you nothing and it means everything. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves. This is Box Office Ricky signing off. Thanks, guys. Have a great week.